Shadowland. They've got fire, they've got style, they make chaos look worthwhile. Partners in crime, heartbeats aligned, together they're one of a kind. They're the couple that slays together, storming the world, it's now or never. Back to back, through thick and thin, in the game of life they always win. Blazing trails, leaving legends behind. Love so fierce, it's one of a kind. We're the couple that slays together. Oh.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Couple That Slays Together. I am Brandon.
Hi, I'm Katie.
Hey Katie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, it's been a little bit of a rough night. We little technical issues behind the scenes. So one of our cables went out. I had to try to run out and get one, but it's okay. We're here now. We're recording, and I feel a lot better about it.
We live, we learn.
Yep. So, how's your week been?
Oh, this week's been exhausting. Work's been a lot more busy. What about you?
Same. We're getting into March. We're at the time of recording this, it's in the beginning of March of 2025. So that's usually when a lot of things pick up. Tonight is daylight savings time, where we lose an hour of sleep, but we gain a whole bunch of sunshine. So I have been looking forward to this night for a long time, despite losing the hour of sleep. But it's Sunday. We can sleep in. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, hey, before we get our show started, let's see what's going on in horror news. We've seen some movies lately. We're getting into the first we're into the end of the first quarter of 2025. We've gotten to see The Monkey. We've gotten to see Companion. We've gotten to see Hard Eyes.
Okay.
All pretty decent movies, I thought. I know there was one you didn't really care for, but
yeah. I think the top spot that I liked the most was The Companion.
I agree.
And then next Hard Eyes, and then Monkey is way fucked up.
Yeah, I don't see. It's hard for me because I kind of got The Monkey. I know it's one of those things where it's like you either really liked it or you really didn't, and so I
understood it. It's not a factor of whether I got it or not.
Yeah,
I understood it. It's just not my kind of horror. Not my cup of tea.
Yeah. It's definitely a very dark, I would almost say black comedy, meaning like it's so dark you can't even see it.
Yeah. There were several times that made me laugh.
Yeah.
Several times that made me laugh. I love some dark humor.
Yep. But
it just didn't do it for me.
I feel that. I get that. And I can see where it didn't. Now, here's what I will say. I almost liked it as much as Hard Eyes. Hard Eyes was good. I feel like The Monkey had a better pacing than Hard Eyes. Hard Eyes, as good as it was, I'm not trying to trash it or anything. I felt like Hard Eyes just had really rough pacing. The scene where they're in the drive-through the drive-in took way too long. I don't know. The film worked for me. I'd be excited for some sequels. It was shot in New Zealand. Actually, that scene, if you've seen the movie, the scene where the cab driver, two fun facts about that. The scene with the cab driver played Pop on Power Rangers Dino Fury. So he's a New Zealand actor, shot in New Zealand. That scene that he's in where he's the cab driver, if I'm looking at it correctly, I believe I stayed just up the corner from when I was in New Zealand the second time. It looked just like that area.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Companion, though, because we both really loved Companion.
Sure.
I think that it was a beautiful dark comedy. It was the kind of pacing that I like. It had some twists and turns in it.
Yep.
And Jack Quaid, can do no wrong. He was amazing in it, and I'm excited to see that Novocaine.
Yeah, I am too. One death I was definitely disappointed by. I don't want to spoil it, but one character was just very entertaining. And
definitely wanted to see more. There was a really cool scene where you're like, oh, I like this character.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yep.
You're fun.
So, hey, I wanted to try out a middle segment. We talked about this a little bit, but I think you might have forgotten. So what I want to do...
I didn't forget.
Okay.
Well, what I didn't know you were doing it first. I thought it was going to be at the end after grading.
Oh, no, I figured we could do this like as a little middle thing.
It's not even the middle, it's the beginning.
Beginning, middle, a little more. Well, I guess before I review, so what I wanted to challenge you to do, and we're gonna do this together. We'll just do one for today. We had this book called "Would You Rather Horror Edition" by Sophia Rivers. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass you the book. What I want you to do is don't even look through any of these. Just flip through it and look at the first one that comes to mind, or that comes to your flip. So
Okay.
just so we can save ones for later for future shows.
Okay. And by the way, if you like any of the questions and you would like to purchase, we just got this on Amazon.
Yep.
So easy peasy. Okay. This is just the first one my eyes went to.
All right.
Would you rather have the power to literally erase your problem, sending the problem into oblivion, or be able to trap your problems and anything associated with them in another dimension where you can never see them again? That's so similar.
I know. I would almost go with the second one.
Because honestly, I would too, because then it would be all associations with the problem too. That was kind of similar. Do you want to do a different one?
Go ahead, sure.
I'll just
Do the same page.
that's what I'm going to do. So underneath here, so would you rather come to find out this might be close to home for you. Would you rather come to find out that your favorite restaurant has not been serving the type of meat or it claims to be offering, or find out that there's a modern day Sweeney Todd in your town and it's a store that you've been frequenting for years?
Well, I guess I'd have to go selfish on this one and say the second one. I don't know. That's hard. Well, it's hard because I like the food.
It's basically asking, would you rather know that your favorite restaurant has been serving mystery meat? Or would you rather know that a place that you've been going a lot, maybe not your favorite, but you've been going a lot, is actually serving human?
Oh.
Because it's Sweeney Todd. So that's one thing I don't know that you know. Sweeney Todd is a horror musical where the main character is seeking revenge by the people, and then his partner in crime has a meat shop underneath his barber shop, and she's grinding them into meat pies. So that's the question, I guess.
Yeah, well, I've seen it, and I'm familiar with the story, but the way that they worded that was weird. So I guess the first one, I don't know. The way I took it as is like, would you rather have found out that there's a Sweeney Todd in town and he's killing people? It's like, well, not to be selfish, but like, there are people that I don't really care about. I would hate to hear of a killer like that, but
yeah.
Well,
you're saying the second one?
Sure, if I'm hearing it correctly.
Yeah, I think the second one too, because the first is saying your favorite restaurant has not been serving the type of meat that it claims to be offering.
Yeah.
So it's a mystery meat. Yeah. It could be anything. You could be eating a rat.
Right.
And you wouldn't know.
I wouldn't want that.
But then again, it's like, do I want to know that I ate my neighbor that's been missing? Like, I don't know. They're both definitely a horror question.
Yeah. Let me read you one.
Okay. I'm thinking maybe the second one too, because then at least maybe I'd know for sure.
Yep. All right. So opening a random page.
Okay.
Would you rather have the uncanny power to control the phases of the moon, but every change triggers an unnatural and unpredictable behavior in animals? Or would you rather have the tremendous power to summon solar flares, each one disrupting technology on a global scale?
Oh, that's easy. That's the easy one. Second one.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking like on a horror level, like if you're the villain, it's like solar power, then
right.
They don't have the technology to do what thing you do.
And again, this actually flows into our topic today, our film, but it also would give you the power to, disrupting technology. You could disrupt an ATM and just boom, get as much cash as you need. I know it's immoral, but
that's true.
So,
and maybe you can hook up with a friend that knows how to hack, and you can disrupt, and they can like transfer Bill Gates funds to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I know you read me two and I read you one, but I want to stop there because I feel like this could lead into what we're talking about today. So our film that we're talking about today is The Purge election year, 2016.
Now, keep in mind, we discussed this before, but this is a little bit out of order.
Yeah.
This is not the first Purge movie. this is Purge election year.
Yep.
But this coincides with actual Purge Day, March 21st.
Yep.
And we're going to very soon be able to give you our interview with Brittany Mirable.
Yes, Brittany played Kimmy the Candy Girl. I want my fucking candy bar, if you will.
We're repping her on our shirt.
Yes, we are.
And then also Brandon did something kind of crazy yesterday.
I did. Before I get into that, so with, like we said, we filming some things out of order, like Katie said, and sometimes, and again, we have all sorts of sequels here, prequels, we might just do one, I know we've got some, we might do some Friday the 13th out of order, or some Scream, it all just kind of depends on where everything falls. And like she said, we're going to be putting this out on March 19th, and then our interview with Brittany will be on the 21st, which is Purge Day, March 21st every year in the Purge universe. But so yes, Katie is right. I did make a massive life decision, and I got a new tattoo. I continued going on with my horror sleeve that I plan on doing with my left arm. And I got the Kimmy, the Candy Girl tattooed on my left. Was this my forearm? My forearm.
And this is the start of it. So yeah, it's the beginning, first outline and shading, but there will be more to come on that. So
yeah. So the plan is on my left arm, I want to do horror characters in black and white, just to keep simple, but I want to do like blood drip through all the characters. I've already got, I'm going to push the microphone away. I've got, if you're seeing on YouTube, I've got a ghost face on my arm here, and there'll be more characters added up there and all through my arm as well. That's the plan anyway.
And if anyone asks, he's got, well, I don't know if you want to put that out there. Brandon's diabetic. Oh, yeah. The little patches that you see are from his meter, not another tattoo.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, that's totally fine. I'm thinking of maybe trying to do like some kind of circle on that, but then I know you're supposed to move the Dexcoms around, so I don't know. I'm thinking about it, but anyway, like I said, we are starting out with the Purge election year 2016 today.
The top subgenres here were gore and torture, home invasion / survival, and that home invasion part goes back to the first Purge, but there is still that aspect of on Purge night you're allowed to do whatever. So yeah, a lot of home invasions do happen.
Yes.
Crime, obviously, even though it's not illegal on Purge night. Sure. Action and adventure. Apocalyptic.
Yep.
We've got fantasy. It's a period piece because it's a future.
Yep.
It's a dystopian future apocalyptic. Revenge, and we put in religious too.
Yep.
Not to flash forward, but if you know the end of this movie, you know that religion is a very big part.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This film is written and directed by James DeMonico. Now, sidebar, he is a dream guest of mine. As for the interviews. Honestly, for both of us, because you and I both, there was a hot minute where for 3 years I studied the subject of philosophy, and one of my favorite philosophy classes was ethics. And we would discuss, every week would be a topic of morality. Morality is this. Morality is, whatever, utilitarianism or, cultural relativism is where I kind of landed. But, to explore the mind of this man, I think would just be phenomenal. I would love to, with how much he world builds with this, he's basically God of this story. And so I would love to just be able to sit down with him and say, wow, first of all,
right,
just pick his brain. And with you being a psychology major, I feel like you could get a lot out of that too.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting small one sentence question, which was basically, if you had the ability to do any crime and not serve time for it, not be held accountable for it, what would you do?
Yeah.
But from that question, we have gotten so many different stories and characters, and and I find myself each time we watched anything of The Purge going, gee, I wonder how many other people would behave like that character.
Yep.
Would at one point in this movie, you've got a gentleman that's just standing outside saying, I'm the fittest.
Yep.
They just total ego. And I'm sitting there going, I'd never do that in my life. But then I'm going, well, how many other billion of people probably would. It's a really cool deep dive into human psyche and to your point, the theology of it, because it kind of becomes a sub-religion.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, and not, we're kind of a political free zone when it comes to this podcast, but obviously, we want everybody to feel welcome, and we very much mean that. We are hardcore about that. We stand by that. However, though, on both sides of politics, because we live in a two-party system, both sides of politics, you hear people say like two things about politics on literally both sides. Oh, this is, 1930s Nazism, and oh, the Purge is coming. Like,
Right.
it has become such a discussive topic. Like, if somebody doesn't like what one side's doing, well, they're going to cause the Purge to happen, or same with the other side. You know what I mean? I've heard both sides say it.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that I'm not going to name names, and again, we're not going to get into politics at all, but a dear friend of ours, as soon as I said, we're going to be doing Purge election year, the first knee-jerk thing was, oh, well, that's our future with the current president, So, but again, the people on the other side are saying the same thing, and it's also is so integral in the Purge franchise, this fear of the future, specifically for Americans, of just, when's the ball going to drop when somebody's finally had it?
Yeah.
And then you make it legal.
Yeah. I personally don't see it happening. Maybe, I don't know. It's one of those works of fiction where I'm just like, yeah, that's too much. And again, I know people have had their experiences with the paranormal and with aliens both, and I still kind of see those as fictional works that have manifested into our memories and our dreams and such. And again, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody out there if you believe in those things. Just from my point of view, my worldview, and my experiences, that's what it has felt like. And I honestly feel like it's that way with the Purge as well. I mean, again, I'm not saying none of that is true. I'm just saying in my experiences and in my, I guess, predictions for the future and all that, I don't see us moving in that direction.
I think that part of this franchise, and not specifically in the movie that we're talking about, election year, but even like in the first Purge and things like that, you have so much realism when it comes to our socioeconomics. It's kind of set in an undisclosed, for the most part, that sometimes there's years involved, future accounts of individuals, but you have a lot of people. It's our suburbs, it's our urban communities, it's the socioeconomic class that's lower than this class being dumped on by that class. And so there's a lot of realism of just what is currently in America intertwined in this, that it makes it seem like it could very well be a future. I'm with you in that I don't think that it would be anything that any government on either side would say, oh, it's completely free range, do whatever you want for 12 hours overnight. I don't think we'd ever get there. But I think that the thought process of it's not far-fetched to think that, the hierarchy's coming through and wiping out the poorer class because of, they're going to gain and yada, yada. And that's what makes this franchise so scary.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not one of those people that's out there saying, and again, about anything I just noted, whether that's, Purge, aliens, or ghosts. I'm not out there saying, no, it's not real. No, it couldn't happen. I just think that we need to decipher what's the truth, what could happen, what has happened, and I don't
fear mongering, right?
And I don't think we're going to know until we're dead and, facing whatever we face, or we may never know. I don't know. Again, it's one of those things.
Well, I think we can all agree that we don't want it to be our future. I think we can all be on the same page that no matter who is in office and making decisions, that we do not want something like the Purge, because and this is something else throughout the franchise, you don't want to be the person that someone's mad at either. You don't want to have your own comeuppance either.
Well, it's interesting because now let me offer a counter to that. I know we need to actually get into the review, but
right.
So I agree with you that, do you think, you said, does anybody want this?
I said nobody would want this.
Exactly. I disagree in the one point of you kind of see it when football sports teams or especially in like UFC fighters and boxers, right? They talk a bunch of shit. They talk a bunch of trash. Someone has a grudge against them. They said something about their missus, whatever. And then it's like, well, how about we solve this in a ring, right? So they get in the ring or they get out of that field and they just fuck each other up back and forth. And then they get out their aggression. That's the simple underlying factor of the purge is, crime is down because people are able to commit crimes on this one day for 12 hours. Now, am I saying I support the purge or would want that in the sense of what we have in film now? Absolutely not. But, they've got those things like, what are those? The anger rooms, like where you can just beat the shit out of.
I would
rage. Yeah, and even, I not to jump ahead, but in season 2 of The Purge, my buddy Joel Allen, who played Ben, the campus killer, who makes the God Mask popular in that franchise, he kills somebody on Purge night.
Yeah.
And, The Purge season 2, it shows you 4 characters and how they're dealing with the purge throughout the year. And it shows him trying to do things like kill an animal, do a rage room, all this, and it's just not working.
Well, and I think that it counters your point in that particular storyline with that particular character, he kills someone for his own safety, his own self-defense. That's what starts this on one purge night. And then for the entire year, it's like he's longing to. He wants to do this again. He wants to be the murderer now. So it kind of negates that, in that it didn't suppress his rage. It was that my mom used to always say it's the Godida chocolate theory.
Yeah.
In that, we didn't grow up with a ton of money.
Sure.
And my mom liked chocolate. I like chocolate and everything. But she's like, I'll never taste Godiva because it's so expensive.
Yep.
If I have one taste of it, I know I'm going to love it, and then I'm going to waste money. I don't want it.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's kind of that, like, you take that one little taste and then you want more.
Yep.
So I think this all kind of circles back around to this psychology behind this, yes, but also the sociology of this.
Yeah.
The niches of socioeconomic location throughout this franchise, because then we also have future films where they're country by the border situations. It's kind of, who are you? What's your background? What's your lens? What have you already lived with? How would you go about the purge?
Yep.
I think that if everyone took a step back and thought about it for a second, you wouldn't want it.
Yep.
Because you wouldn't want to be the one that, oh, you cut that person off in traffic. Maybe you didn't even know you did.
Yeah.
And now it's, oh, there's that guy. Oh, he's still pissed a year later,
Well, and I'll even pull the curtain back even further because, yes, this is a horror podcast, but it's also about us and our lives. In my family, I have alcoholism on both sides. In my circle of friends and some family members, I have people in my life who struggle with gambling. Let's talk about myself. I struggle. I would say my addiction is the needing to feel complete. You see all this stuff here in the set here, in my office here. There's stuff over here that you can't see. To me, it's something that I felt like I wanted to have built and have done before I even started the show, because I have certain ways that I want it, and I wasn't going to stop until it was the way that I wanted it to look. And not to take that away from you at all, but we've talked about this kind of both publicly and privately, that I put together a lot of the show, and we're co-hosts, but I'm kind of the one producing it, so I have a certain way of how I want to look at it. Again, I'm not trying to sound like a dick, nor am I trying to sound like in vain or like full of myself. It's just, we all have these things that are itches, and I feel like if the purge were real, there would be people who couldn't stop killing, who liked the taste of murder and couldn't do it. You couldn't just do it one night.
Yep.
So,
I think that it's what is the saying? If everything was eye for an eye, we'd all be blind. You'd look at different things and throughout real history.
Yeah.
There's the Hatfields and McCoys and different things like that. oh, you killed this person, so I killed this person. Well, you killed that person, now I'm going to leave this person.
Yeah.
It's interesting and thought-provoking, but in reality, you would not want that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before we dive even deeper, just to let you guys know, I wanted to remind everybody, when you're watching our show, if you're listening or watching, I usually put the link in the comments of both the podcast feed and the YouTube feed. If you want to review this movie along with us, maybe hit pause on this, go watch the movie. I put a review sheet in there for you to look at. I have both like a tall ways if you want to keep a notebook, or sideways. So like I said, if you want to download our review sheet and follow along with how we rank this, the films and TV series that we watch, feel free. We'd love to have you reviewing with us. And if you want to send us an email or hit us up on social medias, you can talk to us and give us your scores, give us your ratings. So continuing on, so this film stars Frank Grillo as Leo Barnes, Elizabeth Mitchell as Senator Charlie Rowan, which love Elizabeth Mitchell. This woman can do no wrong. She was in Lost. She's Mrs. Claus in the Santa Claus franchise. I absolutely adore this actress. I think she is so great. And to see her do this film, I was just tickled.
And sidebar on that, I didn't even know she was Mrs. Claus until probably the third time that we saw this movie. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that is her.
Yeah.
It should just a totally different character. And the way that she was in that was just completely different, and an amazing job.
Yeah. Definitely a chameleon.
Yeah.
While having her like personality at staple in there at the same time.
Right.
Because I fully believe she's a senator, and I fully believe she's Mrs. Claus. So, this film also stars, what's this guy's name? Mackenzie Williamson as Joe Dixon, J.J. Soraya as Marcos, Betty Gabriel as Lainey Rucker, our dear friend Brittany Mirabile as Kimmy the Candy Girl, Juani Felice as Schoolgirl number 2, or Candy Girl number 2, one of Kimmy's friends. Terry Serpico as Earl Danziger, which, by the way, sidebar on this guy, looks like he could be Anthony Michael Hall's brother, the guy that played older Tommy Doyle in the Halloween Kills. He's also in The Breakfast Club. You'd know him if you saw him.
Who's the character, Thomas?
He's the main soldier guy who... Yeah, I think he looks just like...
The skinhead guy.
Yeah, I think he looks just like Anthony Michael Hall. Nowadays, Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah.
Raymond J. Barry as Leader Caleb Warrens. He's the older gentleman. Kyle Secor as Minister Edwidge Owens. Nashim Garcia as Angel Munoz. And Edwin Hodge as Dante Bishop, who we have seen in the previous films for The Purge, making his third and final appearance in the franchise so far. This film serves as the third installment in the Purge series, exploring a near-future America where for one night each year, all crimes, including murder, are legal. This film centers around Senator Charlie Rowan as presidential campaign to eliminate the Purge and the extreme measures her opponents take to stop her, as well as former Police Sergeant Barnes, who we saw his initial story in the second film of the franchise, The Purge Anarchy. The film opens beginning in 2022 with a harrowing scene where a young Charlie Rowan and her family are bound and terrorized by a masked purger during the annual Purge night. The assailant brutally murders her entire family but leaves Charlie alive, setting the stage for her future motivations. Like I
said, that was what a way to start a movie.
It was. What, and as sick as that guy was, like, for a horror movie, the way that he spoke, his intonations was, like, just so creepy but creative, and, like, I'm gonna kill, like, he's almost like a Adam West.
Well, I'm really big into the Audible books, and he sounds like one of the narrators.
Yeah.
And the Audible book, and I'm like, his voice is so good. Yeah. But it's so creepy too, and he's listening to the funk music, and I wrote down, and it was just like an instant throws you into being uncomfortable, and what am I in for?
Yep. 18 years later, we see Senator Rowan is campaigning for the U.S. presidency. Now, this is year 2040, remember. She's campaigning for the U.S. presidency on a platform to abolish the Purge, aiming to prevent others from experiencing the tragedy she endured as a child. Her stance gained significant support among the populace, threatening the ruling new founding fathers of America. So the NFFA, we'll be saying that a lot in this. So the NFFA and their candidate, Minister Edwidge Owens. So in response to Rowan's rising popularity, the NFFA revokes the rule protecting the government officials from the Purge, effectively removing her immunity and making her a target during the upcoming event. That to me, like, there's a couple things that they do in this where I'm like, okay, there needs to be some kind of governing force. This is where I'm wondering if, like, the three government system, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch is all gone because you have to have checks and balances. This to me says that they don't have checks and balances anymore, because there's a lot of things that happen in this, like that, being able to change this last minute. We'll see later, but Joe losing his insurance. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that doesn't seem.
And it's not just that he loses the Purge insurance. He does it within like hours of starting. He gets a phone call.
Yep.
It says, "Hey, we're not covering anything with Purge anymore."
Yep. So speaking of Joe, we meet Joe Dixon, a deli owner in
one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
you love him.
Good night, blue cheese. We meet Joe, a deli owner in Washington, D.C. He is seen with his employee, Marcos, and their friend, Lainey, who works the triage on Purge nights. Now, it is known in the Purge world not to mess with the triage workers, although there's no actual law stating that you cannot kill or attack them. It's kind of like an unspoken rule.
Yeah, it's kind of like the rule on the street.
Yeah.
Like, they're not there to attack nor be attacked.
Right. And, if it's one of those things where it's like, if you got to consider, if you're wanting to be attacked, or if you're going to be attacked, you're going to want to have someone there to either help you or take you away. The three characters discuss the Purge and the senator's intentions on ending the Purge and whether or not she can do it. We then see in that store. Now, when we talk about these Purge films, we're not necessarily going to talk about every single Purger, but obviously, this group of ladies, they definitely matter to the story. So we get our first initial confrontation of the Candy Girls. The tension begins when Kimmy and her friend are attempting to shoplift a candy bar from Joe's Deli. Upon being caught, Kimmy reacts defiantly, threatening to falsify and accuse Joe of assault if he intervenes physically. She reluctantly returns the candy, but ominously vows retaliation, hinting at her intentions for the upcoming Purge night.
But she only returns the candy because Lainey gets involved.
That's true.
Lainey is well known on the streets. And I don't even want to attempt to. She's got a code name, Muerta.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a backstory that we don't see in the story, that Lainey was known on the streets and known for what she can and does do on Purge night.
Yep.
But Lainey has made the conscious decision to be working with the triage and not attacking. So to me, it's really good character building, world building. This character has done things that even the most kind of nasty, mean individuals are like, "Ooh, I'm not messing with her. Okay, I'll put the candy back, whatever." I thought that was a really cool scene.
Yeah. Joe, we get to the point where Joe loses his insurance. Joe soon learns that his Purge insurance premiums have skyrocketed beyond affordability. Determined to protect his livelihood, Joe decides to defend his store himself during the Purge with assistance from his loyal employee, Marcos. Again, this gets back to I'm curious what happened with the government, because when did the government start conspiring with insurance companies? You know what I mean?
I mean, again, that's something very much that's not far-fetched. It's happening right now. Like, come on.
Right. But again, we, in our personal lives, we know what we're going through with a certain situation with insurance and lawyers and such. For them to be able to just hop on the horn, hey, insurance, cut all the poor people's insurance off. We're going to do some stuff.
Yeah.
That just seems too quick and too late in the day.
Yeah. I mean, one part of the franchise also shows the hierarchy.
Yeah.
You have a lot of, talking heads very rich individuals having parties, making light of, literally buying people to purge on purge night. And so it's really not far-fetched for them to possibly pick up the phone and say, hey, buddy, we're going to make it so that even government officials can be on purge night.
Yep.
And an insurance person to rack up more money.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of shocking that it would have taken that long. I feel like our insurance, the insurance companies we have right now, that would have done the second purge.
Right.
It would have happened last year, and by this year, they're,
Yep.
No, you got to pay $1 million to have purge insurance.
Right. All right. So then we get to the point where they're highlighting murder tourism on the news. Murder tourism is where foreigners visit the U.S. specifically to participate in the purge, underscoring the event's global notoriety and the moral decay it represents. I have an issue with this.
Really?
I do, because now I can see arguments for it and against it. And again, I'm only going off of what I can fathom, see and fathom in my own, country and government, whatever. The reason why I could see an argument for murder tourism and like other countries coming in, well, money too, but also, with all the laws, the borders are probably either down or unguarded.
So I was wondering that too. When we rewatched this for grading, the first thing I thought was, I'm surprised the government would allow that.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, duh, they would get money, right?
Maybe.
Then, well, possibly, more than likely, yes. They probably make you get a special visa and pay a bunch of money and all of that. But then I also thought, well, why would their country that they're leaving from allow you to come over? And then I thought, well, again, it comes down to money. They probably would say, well, you probably will get a chunk of this visa if you allow them to do it, come in. So again, a deep world building here.
Yeah. I mean, we almost would need to see more about it, but it's like, it seems like they would have to get there not the day of. I feel like airports were shut down during the purge. Like they would probably have to get there like a week before or, whatnot. But the other thing I have an issue with is, they have to get here before it starts, but they can't necessarily come in with weapons beforehand or, whatever else they have to use for it. So it almost doesn't make sense in that regard. It also seems like, let me try that again, plus other countries. And again, I'm not trying to bring up all this, stir a pot of other countries, but, other countries like the Middle East and everything, like Mexico, they have killing every day. I know
Chris even says this in this movie about Juarez.
Yep.
And this is exactly how Juarez sounds every night.
Yeah. Well, that and, when Grillo's character is kind of, interrogating him in the store, which we'll get to later, he said, what'd you do in Mexico? He said, had to try to survive. So we don't necessarily know what Marcos did, but, he obviously probably killed somebody or, took some drastic measures to, get on some kind of record. But again, my argument there is, why come to this country to murder freely on one night when it seems like other, why wouldn't you necessarily go to other countries to do it?
Well, and the specific foreign country that was coming in that was definitely something that was more European group of individuals that were coming over. So again, that kind of speaks to the socioeconomics, the ethnic, things like that. It kind of brought up the question for me of America as a nation has several different time zones from Eastern through Pacific. So I'm wondering, like, with the purge starting and stopping at a certain time, I think it's like, what, 7?
Yeah, it's like 12 to, no, it's like
7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Like, what if you lived near where the time zone changes? And you'd kind of be like murder tourism then as well if you wanted to have an extra hour.
Sure.
I just thought that was an interesting possibility of something that they could do in the franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely another one that I feel like would need more explaining.
Yeah.
So, okay. So before the purge starts, despite the heightened danger, Senator Rowan chooses to remain in her unsecured home during the purge to appear relatable to average citizens.
Well, unsecured in that it's not a total lockdown.
Yeah.
Like Leo wanted her to have more security, and there is security there. She does have like a secret service. She does have like secret rooms and yada yada. So it's not completely unsecured.
That, and didn't he want her to go to like a bunker or somewhere safe?
He wanted her to go somewhere else. Yeah, she said no. 99% of the people here in America don't have the option to go somewhere else that's more safe. So I'm not either.
Yep.
Which good on her, but also it's kind of like, well, if you had that option, don't be surprised that people are coming after you.
Yep. Her head of security, Leo Barnes, who obviously we talked about, returned from the Purge anarchy, reluctantly agrees to implement extensive security measures, including barricades and a team of Secret Service agents. So now we've gotten to Purge night. As the Purge commences, we see several situations around Washington, D.C. of people purging, including people killing, torturing, and maiming others. And Joe and Marcos defend their store on the rooftop. Simultaneously, Lainey Rucker, a former purger turned emergency and medical technician, patrols the city with her colleagues Dawn to providing medical assistance to those in need. True to her word, now here we go. True to her word, Kimmy returns on Purge night, leading a group of similarly dressed young women. They arrive in a car adorned with Christmas lights, exuding a menacing yet flamboyant presence. Kimmy, now donning a mask inscribed with "Kiss Me," confronts Joe and his employees. Marcos, demanding the candy bar and threatening to burn down the store after killing them. She boasts about murdering her own parents earlier that evening, showcasing her unhinged and violent nature. After Joe and Marcos fire a warning shot, Kimmy and her group retreat for the time being.
And I wondered, because I'm so much curious about people's backstory and, who hurt you?
Yeah.
Who hurt you that you're behaving this way? But then when she talks about she already killed her parents, I immediately was like, well, what were your parents doing? Like, that created you. She's such a hateable character.
Yeah.
That was, I thought that maybe it was a little Easter egg as to she's from an abusive home and she's had it. What did you think?
I wonder that too, and it's funny, we talk about that. You talk about her being such a hateable character. She gets, when we're at conventions, she gets people that come up to her and they're like, "You were such a bitch, but I loved you." And I'm sure we'll talk about it more in our interview with her, but, she's such a great actress in the sense that she's actually, doing that. But also, yeah, that's a good question. And, I would love to have seen that in something, I don't know. Good question. Honestly, thinking of, it seems like her and her friends, yeah, there's so many things you got to think about there because, is that even her car? Did she take her car from her parents? The Christmas lights on the car, I thought were both really cool, but also kind of like weird. Like,
It definitely impractical.
Yeah. Where are you plugging that thing in?
Right. Well, for me, I'm sitting here going, it's Purge night. This isn't defensive or offensive. And it actually hinders your ability to see out of your windshield.
Yeah.
So it really kind of hinders you and makes you more of a target for others. But it is a cool effect.
Yep.
It is a very cool scene. Of course, they're playing the Miley Cyrus song as they're strutting out of the car and everything.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely a fun scene, in my opinion, for a horror movie. We return to Rowan's home, where two Secret Service agents betray her, disabling security systems and allowing a paramilitary group of neo-Nazis.
What I could not believe that she was so shocked when Leo comes in the room and is like, "Someone's after you." She's like, "What?
Yeah.
What?"
Here's the thing.
How could you be surprised though?
Right. I relate to her in the sense of doing the right thing. I relate to her, I've talked about this in my own personal life. There's a lot of people who, I'll get into situations like either, like I've had a situation with people trashing me online to where, people are just going to be like, "Oh, what are you going to say back? What are you going to do back? You got to do something back." But I don't want to do that because I don't want to become them. I don't want I don't want to sink to their level. And I understand that she doesn't want to sink to their level and play the games that they play. But come on, girl, you got to defend yourself better than that. You got to vet these guys that are here. We got to find people you trust. Don't let Leo do it. I mean, Leo, obviously, he's a great guy, but he only can do so much. Like, you got to have a gun on you. You got to be able to take care of yourself. I mean, I get not going right after the NFFA guy, the president or whatever, but like, what? Come on, man. Right? You got to be able to defend yourself here at a certain point.
Well, it's interesting you say that because while we were rewatching this movie, I was thinking of alignment charts. And it's something in psychology where you basically have from lawful good, chaotic good, pure neutral, evil chaotic. And I immediately was thinking of that during this scene. I wrote it down here. I got to make sure I say this right. Leo is definitely chaotic good. He wants good. He wants to protect, but he's willing.
Yeah.
He's willing to bend, what defines being good, right? But the senator is so staunchly lawful good.
Yeah.
And I get that is a good thing to have in a normal situation. Your day-to-day, you want someone who's lawful good, especially in a political office.
Yep.
But in this situation, where they are actively trying to eliminate you, maybe it's time to go a little bit chaotic good. And I also thought, just to round it out, I thought that Lainey is definitely lawful evil. Marcos and Dixon are more of the neutral good.
Yeah.
Where each one of these characters are good, but doing good in a different way.
Right.
And what they're called to defend and how they're called to defend.
Yeah.
And but I was right there with you. I was getting a little frustrated with the senator. It's like, get on the bulletproof vest, learn how to shoot a weapon. Like, come on.
It honestly goes back to, you can really compare it to superheroes.
Kind of.
Superman is like the ultimate good, right?
Right.
People got so pissed off when he killed General Zod in the Man of Steel because Superman doesn't kill.
Right.
And Batman doesn't necessarily kill, but he'll beat the hell out of them to where, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you. Like, that's Batman,
Right.
I'm actually thinking of I know I'm getting a little off topic here, but I'm actually thinking of an episode of the Justice League. The finale of one of the seasons, it was like the finale of it was the finale of Unlimited, where Superman is like, I feel like I have to watch everything I do. I feel like I have to, he's getting ready to fight Darkseid. And he's like, I feel like I have to watch every move I make. I feel like I have to make sure that I don't kill somebody, that I even, flick he doesn't say this, but if I even flick a booger, that I would just, might actually hit somebody, it's like a bullet to the head. But he's like, but you can take it, can't you, big man? You can handle the pain. And I feel like she needs to realize, hey, these guys are they're not only evil to themselves, they're evil to, they're going to be making these decisions for people later on, and for the betterment of the country, she needs to make some harder decisions than what she's making. So I know that's a little bit of a tangent that we got off on there, but that was kind of my thought in the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I find her frustrating. I find myself seeing Leo as more of probably how I would want to behave during Purge.
Yeah.
And getting kind of frustrated with her. But then at the end of the end all be all of this, it's kind of refreshing to have someone that is still so staunchly, we're going to do this the right way.
Yep.
And we'll talk about this later, but, Bishop is another one where he's more of a chaotic good.
Yeah.
Maybe even more closer to the evil, because like they talk and the senator even says, like, I agree with you, but there's actions that you've done that I don't agree with the action.
Yep.
And so again, it's an interesting perspective of how do you view what doing the right thing is in the narrative of Purge Night.
Yep. So the group of neo-Nazis led by Earl Danziger and hired by the NFFA, they are hired to infiltrate Rowan's home. Leo Barnes manages to escort Rowan out safely, though he sustains a gunshot wound. He detonates a bomb in her home, killing the traitorous agents and some assailants, and they flee into the city seeking refuge. While navigating through the perilous streets, Roland and Barnes are captured by a group of murder tourists. Joe and Marcos, observing from their store rooftop, intervene by shooting the captors, rescuing Roland and Barnes, and offering them shelter in the store. Kimmy and her gang return with reinforcements, determined to breach the store's defenses. Her group employs power saws to cut through the metal security door.
I think that one of the big aspects of this scene, it shouldn't really be glossed over, is the taunting and the mocking.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the reasons why people kind of love to hate the Kimmy character.
Yeah.
This obviously is the third time we've seen her come back around.
Yeah.
Kind of leave, come back, leave, come back. But now she's brought, here's the rest of my gang kind of a feel. And she's, calling him every name in the book, and this taunting of, ha ha ha, we're going to get you, this big game, this big taunt.
Yep.
And Dixon, inside, locked in, makes one phone call and says, hey, Lainey, I need your help.
Yep.
And I think that is a big part of this. It's kind of like those where you've seen like the two boxers and the one's all like, I'm going to talk a bunch and yada, yada, yada. And the more stoic, like, spit your game, whatever.
Yeah.
And then boom, one hit and you're done.
Yeah.
That I think is a great buildup of this scene.
Oh, yeah. So after that happens, or just as this is happening, Lainey drives her ambulance right into Kimmy and her accomplices. Yeah. Killing them and effectively neutralizing the threat in the deli.
Well, she runs over several of them, but then she hops out.
Yeah.
And she's got a good big girl shotgun.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is, it is a big girl shotgun, but it's compact.
Right.
Like, it's almost like a hand shotgun.
I think it's supposed to be like a sawed off.
Yeah, maybe.
But you get some epic kill scenes.
Yeah. She basically, and then she blows Kimmy away in the face.
And Kimmy, once again, is just running her mouth.
Yep.
I'm still going to get you, yada, 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 and boom.
Yep. And again, we'll talk.
Lovely.
We'll talk more if you're watching this again, either in real time or in the future. Hop over to our interview with Brittany. We're going to be talking to her about that scene. So, recognizing the escalating threats, the group decides to leave the store for a safer location. While en route to a safer place, Danziger's team tracks and ambushes them using a helicopter.
Sorry. Really quick. One of the things that I quoted happened in the scene prior to this, where Lainey comes in and she's like, Joe, it's me, let me in. One of the things that I thought was really interesting was in a scene earlier, a wife was very upset with her husband and killed her husband on Purge night. And Lainey explains it later, and I quoted this as saying, purging didn't make her feel any better like she thought it would. And I thought that was kind of a great sum up of maybe even the entire franchise.
Yeah.
You think purging's going to make you feel better, and it didn't make you feel any better.
Yep.
And I thought that was just an interesting, jokingly you think, oh, the wife finally is able to, without, getting arrested. Maybe he was an abusive piece of crap, but she still wouldn't feel better after doing that.
Yeah.
So then after that, then Lainey is taking them in the triage armored van.
Yep. While en route to a safer place, the Danziger's team tracks and ambushes them using a helicopter. Taking refuge under an overpass, Barnes discovers a tracking device embedded in the bullet, lodged in his shoulder, explaining how they were to be found. He removes the tracker to prevent further direction. This bothered me just slight because I don't know about you, but like, I get the tracking, I get that's fine, but like, when he pulls it out of his shoulder, again, I didn't take any points off for this specifically, but he pulls it out of his shoulder, it's a whole ass bullet. When you shoot a bullet, there's a place for the powder, and then you get basically the tip of a bullet in most cases.
And depending on the bullet, it splatters.
Yeah, you got a hollow point or,
Yeah.
So and for the bullet to still be in him would have most likely had to have been a hollow point, and so I feel like the tracker should have been like this little or like in the tip of one of those things. And it was at the bottom of the bullet, which kind of bothered me. The point of which, but again,
Yeah. And I thought, wouldn't you think that putting a tracker in a bullet would be impossible because it would break
right.
the impact of whatever it is you're hitting? Yeah, and it's also like, well, how expensive was each bullet if each one had a tracker?
Right. What did you miss?
Yeah, what if you miss? It was a little far-fetched.
Yeah, you just got to suspend disbelief, basically.
Exactly. And I also kind of felt like it was a little far-fetched for him to immediately understand that that's how they track them.
Yeah.
When earlier you saw drones. And so I'm thinking, like, in that heat of the moment, if I was him, I'd think, oh, they've been tracking you with the drones. It's kind of a little like, okay, I get it, plot.
Yeah.
But he goes, oh, I've got this tracker. Let me get it out. Okay.
Yep. Next, we encounter the Crypt Gang.
The Crips whistle.
Yep. The group encounters a Crips game, but avoids conflict when Joe uses the gang whistle, indicating his past affiliation, which another backstory that we didn't get to see. In exchange for medical assistance to a wounded gang member, the Crips agree to mislead the NFFA forces by planting the extracted tracker elsewhere. Next, the group reaches the underground hospital. It is an underground anti-purge hideout beneath the hospital, operated by none other than Dante Bishop and his resistance movement. This sanctuary offers a medical care and temporary safety. I gotta say, just sidebar, the Hodge brothers, such amazing actors. Edwin Hodge, they're always working. You know, Aldous Hodge is his brother. I know you're not necessarily too familiar with him, but he if you don't remember, he was the tall soldier in Supernatural's end of season 2 when the yellow-eyed demon was trying to pick who his favorite's going to be, who Lucifer was going to possess. And then later he was Hawkman in Black Adam film. Both brothers, great actors. They've done a film together. Forget what it's called now. I think it's more of a horror mystery. Maybe we can review it sometime. But just the two of these guys are such good actors.
And honestly, we could probably do a whole review just on the Bishop character.
Oh, yeah.
But if you have not seen them and you are curious about this, the Bishop character is kind of the huntee in the first movie.
Yep.
By the second movie, you find out that there's a movement,
yep,
predominantly from the African American community, but really from the lower income and general urban community that have been the prey throughout the Purge, are finally saying no more.
Yeah.
And kind of forming what I call a militia.
Yeah.
To go against the new founding fathers. So you've seen Bishop in the first movie kind of grow from being a victim of Purge to helping grow this movement, and then this is kind of like the pinnacle.
Yeah.
He has not only built this underground bunker to help people that have been hurt, but we find that he actually has more of an offensive plan on trying to end the Purge completely.
Yep. So speaking of that plan, we are at that point in the plot. Rowan learns that Bishop's group plans to assassinate Minister Owens during the Purge Mass at a fortified cathedral. She argues this, fearing it would martyr Owens and undermine their cause.
I think that one of the really cool one-liners, again, is when they explain that this militia is planning on using the original tunnels.
Yeah.
I think it was Lincoln. Something. Had to get into this this church, this cathedral.
Yep.
And he basically said that the original founding fathers was going to kick the new founding fathers' asses. Mm-hmm. I loved that. I thought that was one of those, like, okay, dark humor, but I like it.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just read this again. So Rowan learns that Bishop's group plans to assassinate Minister Owens during a purge mass at a fortified cathedral. She argues against this, fearing it would martyr Owens and undermine their cause.
And I'm sorry, how smart is it or how dumb is it to have mass like that on Purge night?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. You're looping in the religion part of the subsect of the new founding fathers and everything, but I'm also going like, it doesn't take that many brain cells to say, let's not do that at the height of the Purge.
Well, to argue that point, though, I wonder if they thought, well, a church, it might not necessarily, it might also be a safe haven, kind of like the triage vans.
Huh.
So they might be like, well, no one's going to bother us here at this church, so why don't we just have mass?
But in the first Purge, the movie, The First Purge, they tried to hide out in a church, remember? And it was like attacked, or not bombed, but attacked.
Yeah.
So that in the chronological of this film, they already have already attacked churches. But I guess maybe it also lends to the thought of these elitists that they're above it.
Yeah.
That I'm going to still be able to dress in my Sunday finest and go and have this kind of purge mass and not be messed with.
Yep. That's true. So the NFFA forces locate and attack the hideouts, the underground hospital. Barnes and Rowan escape and reunite with Joe, Marcos, and Laney, who have left earlier to check on Joe's store. So with nowhere else to go, Senator Rowan, Leo Barnes, Joe, Marcos, and Laney decide to stop the NFFA's assassination attempt at the cathedral, where Minister Edwidge Owens is leading the Purge night mass. The NFFA leadership and their supporters are inside, celebrating and performing ritualistic purge killings, sacrificing heretics, if you will, to what they see as a divine cause. Now, this is where it gets into the religious aspects of it, because people are, and again, I will say this, I am not a Catholic, so I don't know much about Catholicism, but I've been to a couple Catholic weddings, and I know that you stand, sit, kneel, you chant, kind of like you're talking like this when you're in church. And again, no disrespect to Catholics. Again, this is what I've seen in the past. Very similar to this. So obviously they've mixed Catholicism, and it's almost like they've also abolished church and state.
Right.
So along with getting rid of maybe the three checks and balances.
Right. And to me, it's kind of a perversion of Catholicism and Christianity, in that there's a specific spot where he unveils the different knives and contraptions and everything. He talks about how they've been sanctified in holy water.
Yeah.
So that makes it okay, right? It makes it holy, right, to do what you're about to do. I think it's beautifully done. But I think that it is one of those, like, it could naturally progress to that for some people.
Yeah.
If you were, of a very strict Orthodox faith, and you believe that the new founding fathers was correct, it would blur the line. I mean, we see that, sure, not to get into politics, but we see that in politics all the time already.
Yep.
So it is kind of a natural progression, but there is that just kind of, we blessed the weapons.
Yeah.
That's kind of fantastical to me.
Yeah. Dante Bishop, leader of the resistance, and his group are already inside preparing to assassinate Owens. Rowan, however, pleads with them not to carry out this assassination, arguing that killing Owens would turn him into a martyr and ultimately harm their cause. She insists they must defeat the NFFA throughout the election and not through murder. Now, this I actually agree with, but
I do. No. But it makes no sense. It makes no sense in that, why wouldn't the people trying to kill her think that she would be a martyr then?
Right. Well, that too, and I agree in the sense that she shouldn't necessarily kill them.
Right.
I beat them to a bloody pulp to the point where they're knocked the fuck out for a while.
You still have to defend yourself.
Yeah, I mean, hurt them, don't kill them, but definitely, double tap. Like,
yeah, there's a way to defend yourself and subdue them and not murder. I agree with her on that, but I sometimes you just want to shake her.
Yeah.
But I also say, like, why wouldn't the opposite side that's trying to kill her say the same thing? Because then she would be a martyr for the cause.
Yep.
It's almost like no matter which way, America is on the precipice of one of their leaders being a martyr.
Yep.
And one side being so pissed off they revolt. And
yep.
Yeah.
So before they can intervene, Barnes, Leo, realizes that the neo-Nazi parliamentary leader, Earl Danziger, is closing in on them with his squad. In an intense fight, Barnes goes one-on-one with Danziger in a brutal and bloody battle. Despite Danziger's strength and aggression, Barnes ultimately overpowers and kills him, eliminating one of the NFFA's most dangerous enforcers. Now, the very unfortunate part of this is Dante Bishop also dies in this crossover, and that honestly pissed me off for the story because I think he deserved, I know that he had so much to do with the first one, not as much in the second one, and then he was in the end and stuff and helping them out through that whatever that dinner was, but I wanted to see more of him.
Yeah.
I really did. And it was unfortunate that he died in this and that they killed him off because it was one of those things where I was kind of like, why? Why even get to know him if you're going to do this? Like, I mean, I get that the hero dies in some circumstances, but I don't really...
We're back to the martyrdom, right? Or he's kind of the martyr of the cause.
Yeah. During the chaos, Joe is shot by one of the NFFA supporters. Despite the group's attempts to save him, his injuries are too severe. In his final moments, Joe urges Marcos to take care of the deli, passing on his legacy. He dies, leaving Marcos and the others devastated. Which is a bummer, too. Like that character, like you said.
We lost 2 good ones.
Yeah.
Bam, bam.
Yep. With Owens incapacitated and mainly the NFFA leaders dead, Rowan, Barnes, Marcos, and Laney escape the cathedral. As the sun rises and the Purge comes to an end, they regroup, mourning Joe's sacrifice, the hope of the future. So we see the end, Election Day and victory. 2 months later, it is Election Day. Rowan's message has resonated with the public, and she wins the presidency in a landslide, defeating Administrator Owens. Her first act as president... her first act as a president-elect is to push forward the legislation to abolish the Purge permanently. Meanwhile, in the aftermath of... Now, see, okay, hold on, let me rewind that. So, they must go, they must have abolished Inauguration Day. Because obviously in America, it's the first, Tuesday of November, and then Inauguration Day is like the 3rd.
That's Election Day. Election Day is the first Tuesday in November.
Right, so that's what I mean.
And then inauguration is usually like January 6th.
Yeah, something like that. Or, in January.
Yeah.
But this says she does it immediately, which it seems like she would have to wait a couple months.
Right.
But again, they could have changed things. We don't know.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the aftermath of the election, riots break out as hardcore NFFA supporters refuse to accept her victory, signaling that while the battle is won, the fight against the NFFA is not over. Marcos and Laney honor Joe's memory by reopening his deli, symbolizing the fresh start and a hopeful future. In our final scene, as the film ends, news reports show growing unrest from the NFFA loyalists, hinting that a possible backlash against Rowan's policies. The fate of the Purge remains uncertain, leaving the door open for future conflicts, as we see in the Forever Purge. Just some notes that I wrote down here. I'm curious if people would actually truly go as insane as they show. I think some would, but, I think would be hesitant at first, like we see in the 2018, the actual first Purge film, not the original, but the first Purge, the 4th one. It starts out, and it's not to get ahead of ourselves, but it starts out in Staten Island, and I remember, Marissa Tomei and the characters are like watching.
Yeah, we're the lab rats.
Right. And I just kind of feel like, I feel like there wouldn't be much for Purgers.
I think you're underestimating. I think that maybe the first time you'd have more people, like they show, like partying in the streets, doing drugs, yada yada, having mommy daddy time on the hood of a car in public. I think more things like that. But then I think you get into the eye for an eye stuff. You killed my family member last Purge, so I'm coming after you this Purge. And in the second Purge, we had like where the sisters like, I know you've been talking to my man.
Oh yeah,
and things like that. I think once it kind of you become desensitized, right? And you're like, oh well, you just pissed me off. Wait until March 21st.
Oh yeah. So kind of along those same lines, I think during the Purge, I'd only be able to kill someone if I had a life-threatening reason to, like if I was defending myself. or if someone really did me wrong, like if they killed my family member or my friends, or
Well, like Leo's character in the second one.
Oh, yeah.
It's revenge from his son, right?
yeah,
And
drunk driver hit him or killed him
Yeah.
or something. So
his son was killed. So
I'd probably be tempted. I'm not gonna lie. I can't be like, well, I wouldn't do anything. But what do you think you would do during the purge? Like whether we're killing or because they always go straight to killing, but like there's all other crimes you can commit, as we saw in season.
yeah. So I wondered this because I knew obviously that we were going to review this and watch the movie, and I figured this is the number one question that Brit E gets at conventions and everything too. Is that, well, what would you really do? I think that in reality I would try to hunker down and get to someplace safe and get around people that we can all protect each other. But I also want to say that I go back to like the first time I ever played laser tag, where at first I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then it's like adrenaline hit and it was just like, get everybody. So I think that it's one of those that I think I prepare and be a prepper and try to hunker down and hide.
Yeah.
And then if anything were to happen, I'd be like, what about you?
I feel like I have to strategize because I think my number one thing is theft. I think I would be a thief, but like what I would do in this situation, I guess, because it's like, oh, I'd rob a bank. Well, the bank's probably move their money or
Right.
super locked down or whatever. You can't say I'd rob a
One of the first things I thought,
Right.
too. Yeah.
So what I think I would do, and I don't think I would resort to violence. What I think I would do is I would like go to like a Walmart or like a Meijer. We have Meijer up here in Indiana.
Like hide in the bathroom.
No, well, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that.
Like hide in the bathroom at like $6.50.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But no, okay, that's even a better. But well, maybe I'd add on to that. So because I was thinking like I'm just thinking kind of off the top of my head. I would probably like go to Meijer or Walmart or Best Buy or whatever store. I've like put all the crap that I would want to steal in one area, so it wouldn't have to just like rage through the store. I would just like I'd hide it behind like pet food or something like
It's funny you say that because you're not on TikTok. But guys, if you're on TikTok and you've seen this trend, let me know. But I saw there's this thing that people did at Christmas time. And it's like, I really like this Christmas themed knickknack or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I know that after Christmas, it's going to be what? 50% off and 75, 90%. So people have been hiding it. And like they specifically showing like at Target.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go check my hiding spot, see if my stuff's still there. And then going back and getting it at 90% off because it's not like putting it in like the very last laundry basket in the very back.
Right.
Where like they're not going to like, they're going to straighten the shelves, but they're not going to see, And this woman, one of the ones I saw, she got like an entire cartload because she had hit it pre-Christmas and then got it all for 90% off.
That's hilarious.
Because even without being allowed at Purge Day, people find a way.
Yeah. What would actually happen in real life though? Yeah. I would probably break into an animal shelter, bring home 6 more cats, and then you'd shoot me.
I probably. And then when Lainey shows up, she'd be like, "I understand."
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I've also seen you on Black Friday.
Dude, I'm insane.
Not
so much anymore, but in our younger years.
Yeah, I think that if the Purge were to be real, I think that the first several maybe years would be a lot of looting and a lot of people theft and stealing, and then it leads itself into the eye for an eye thing.
It might be my bias, but I would love to see some kind of prequel story to like Kimmy, with her friends and why they're so crazy. I said all this, so I wouldn't necessarily touch the second season of The Purge, with the exception of the guy who like can't figure out who wants to kill him. It's like all of his neighbors. I didn't really like that guy's story, but I like Ben, the campus killer story. Obviously Joel, I'm a little biased about him. The guy that makes the God Mask popular, and then like the government chick, you see an a camera woman worker. Like I thought that in the bank robber stuff, like I thought that was awesome.
I thought awesome. Whole stuff was interesting. The what stuff with Chucky's daughter?
That's from season
the bus and all that. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's from season 1.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because again, it's kind of like we're all in our own ways seeking, what the truth is, and
yeah,
hello, we've got cults for all of human history.
Yep.
Who wouldn't? It would be a thing of humans being in a cult, and
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting spin.
So I like what they did with season 1 and how it's hour by hour in a night. I also like when, I like how they did season 2, how it world builds and it shows you in between 2 Purge films. So what I would have liked to have seen, though, is it go for 3 seasons at least. And then in season, either, make season 1 this or, whatever, make it a 3rd season. And show us, episode per episode, give us these characters that you've introduced us to and give them kind of their own episode. Bring them back, bring back Dante, bring back Edwin Hodge, bring back Brittany, bring back Joel, bring back, I want to see, where these people ended up. I want to see how they began.
Obviously, like Brittany's character, Kimmy.
Yeah.
Based on the timelines that she gave, like, she's had the purge her entire life, right? I mean, there's never not been a purge for her.
And then Ben, Joel's character, survives at the end of season 2. I would love to have seen him. It's only, 4 years before this? I would have loved to have seen him and Brittany link up so far, somehow. I know that's ridiculous, but my little bias is for these characters that I've loved and, like the actors that have come with it. I just would have loved to have seen that.
Right.
Some of the Purge... Oh, yeah, this is another note. So, like, some of the Purge setups in this movie, like, there's that part with the guillotine. Like, there's, like, in the guillotine in the back alley. And, like, the big, like, when they're in between scenes. And, like, there's that big-ass axe in the back alley. That whoosh. I said, how do they have time to do all that? You'd think that, A, it'd be illegal to settle that stuff outside of Purge hours. But then B, you'd think that someone would come by and kill them when they're setting all that stuff up, and it would take too long during Purge hours. Like, they kill them while they're setting it up. So, especially that big-ass guillotine. I mean, that guillotine was probably 3 stories tall, and they were, like, dropping it on people. That kind of goes with the gore and torture part of it. But,
right.
So, I don't know. That was one of those things where I'm just like, I had to suspend disbelief and just say, all right, this is just a part of the plot. So,
right. I thought similar along those lines with, like, the guillotine and the axe and everything, but then my mind immediately thought, well, there's a lot of really good cosplay out there.
Yeah.
Cons. And so I could see someone really putting a lot of their extra hobby hours and time, if you were really into it and you really thought that was a cool thing to do, that you've built all of this, like, I don't know, at a warehouse or something, and then trucked it out or over, or maybe they're the owners of that building, so they're not gonna, I kind of thought it would go on the same lines than trying to make a logical, argument for it. But there are a lot of fantastical, you have to suspend belief.
Yep.
But then also going like, I bet you somebody out there, if they were told they were allowed to do it, probably would do something like that.
Yep. All right, so now we're getting into our interesting things with notes. These are things that we've obviously found online and, just kind of about the film. We hope they're true, but, something we can talk about. A little shorter this time, but I've got something else I want to talk about kind of in this section as well that should be short as well. Originally, this is the 3rd film, so this part was intended to be a prequel telling the story of the very first Purge. This idea was scrapped when Frank Grillo accepted James DeMonaco's offer to reprise the character of Sergeant Leo Barnes. The prequel was then shifted to the 4th film, which is the first Purge. It came out in 2018. And obviously we've seen in the news that Frank Grillo is coming back for the 6th installment. So I'm curious to see, hey, maybe we'll get some wrap-up stories. Maybe we'll get some, some other stuff. As of this film, each Purge installment has earned more money at the box office than its predecessor. A rare thing that has happened in horror and films. Edwin Hodge's character is in all 3 of the original 3 Purge films. In the first 2, he was only credited as the quote-unquote bloody stranger. In this one, his name is revealed as Dante Bishop. So I didn't know his name until this one. The senator's house is the same house as Frank Underwood's house in the show House of Cards. Well, that's kind of neat. So one thing I wanted to talk about and just kind of go through a little bit, because I know people are like, well, what does this mean or what does that mean? So I'm just going to try to blow through this really quick. The Purge announcement. So the standard Purge announcement that commemorates the Purge every year says, "This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual Purge, sanctioned by the U.S. government. Weapons of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use during the Purge. All other weapons are restricted. Government officials ranking 10 have been granted immunity from the Purge and shall not be harmed. Commencing at the siren, any and all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 continuous hours. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable until tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. when the Purge concludes. Blessed be our new founding fathers of America, a nation reborn. May God be with you all. There were changes in the Purge election year. In the Purge election year, the announcement is slightly altered due to the revocation of government official immunity, making Senator Rowan a legal target. The new announcement reflects this change. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual Purge, sanctioned by the U.S. government. All crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 consecutive hours. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable until tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. The Purge will commence at the siren. May God be with you all. This version removes the Class 4 weapons rule and eliminates the government official immunity, making politicians fair game for the assassination. Now, why I brought this up is because, we could talk about this in other Purge films too, and I'm going to try to speed through this. What are the weapons class ratings? People wonder, well, what does that mean? What can I use? What can I not use? So weapon class 1 is firearms. It's the most common. Handguns, shotguns, assault rifles, sniper rifles, machine guns. Number 2, melee weapons. So machetes and knives, baseball bats, axes and hatchets, chainsaws. Number 3, class 3, improvising weapons, makeshift killers. So flamethrowers, explosives, tasers, and cattle prods, and booby traps. Now, a class 4 weapon is heavy weaponry. So miniguns, rocket launchers, armored vehicles, and mounted guns. Now we get into a class 5, which is execution and torture devices, which is weird because, but in 4, they take away that. So we can start seeing things like guillotines, spiked gauges, and restraint chairs, and electric shock devices. A class 6 weapon is a themed and custom weapons. So that's things like crossbows and bows.
Which we've seen.
Yeah. So I don't know. Mass killers, signature weapons. So Septum Master Persona, I guess. And then weaponized drones, which is seen later in the Forever Purge. Now, government ranking system. See, I told you it's quick. Government ranking systems. Ranking 10 or higher. So the rank 10, who are these people? This is the President of the United States and their cabinet members. High-ranking members of the new founding fathers of the NFFA, basically. They're class 10. Ranks 7 through 9. These are high-ranking members of Congress, governors, and military officials. Wealthy Purge supporters with deep ties to the NFFA. The class ranking 4 through 6, that's middle-level government and law enforcement. So senators, mayors, local politicians like the leaders, higher-ranking law enforcement, so police chiefs, FBI, SWAT commanders, and wealthy business executives who benefit from Purge policies. And then the rankings of 1 and 3, so low-level officials and enforcers, police officers, city officials, and local government workers, FBI agents, CIA operatives, enforcers hired by the NFFA. So those type of people, basically.
Well, and I think that also kind of lends to if this was in a real America as of right now, you would think that any attempt to push a purge through legislation would be kiboshed because they'd be like, I want to be a level 10.
Yeah.
It needs to be like all government and not just yada yada.
Yep.
So it's kind of another stopper, maybe.
Yep. Final thoughts on the government ranking system. It's a critical part of the Purge's world building, and it highlights how the NFFA manipulates the class, power, and violence to maintain control. The higher someone's rank, the less likely they are to be affected by the Purge, unless the NFFA decides to sacrifice them for political reasons.
And it's also one of those, like, they already have enough money that they're probably already in a bunker.
Yep.
So why even have the rule, 1? But then 2, then it's like, okay, then you can be out purging people, but they can't touch you.
Yeah.
It's all very hypocritical and very, leaning to only protect the higher class.
Well, not only that, like, okay, let's say you're not in a bunker. Let's say you are screwed and you're like the Purge Anarchy when the couple, they're out in, in their car stalls and they can't get to safety. What if you're a ranking level 10 government official and, what are you going to do to show people like, hey, how you can't kill me? I'm a 10 of 10. And people purging, if you're just walking by, if you're like say in the the Forever Purge 2 or in the first Purge film, when it's just chaos and like that huge black dude is like going through and just killing the neighborhood.
Or like in this one, maybe the swinging axe.
Yeah.
Right. Notice you swung and hit someone who was level 10.
It just seems very hard to govern. Like, if I'm walking by just popping people in an alley, I'm a level 10, don't care. But, like, I just don't feel like it makes sense.
Well, and again, later in the franchise, we kind of see what happens if you break a purge rule.
Yeah.
But it is also kind of like, how can you fully, if there's gunfire going on and they've recorded it with a drone or whatever, or traffic camera or whatever, but how could you say that it was definitely me that fired that trigger that hit that person with that bullet? There's a lot of convoluted.
Yeah.
You could really get super deep in it, but again, you just have to say it's a plot point.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I have to say this. I know we're not doing it this year. We've already kind of mapped out our year for 2025. Spoilers. I am so excited to review the series. Like, one of my favorite shows. I love it so much. Okay, so our last interesting thing of note actually leads into the death count. So, how many people do you think died in this film now?
I don't know.
There's actually a number.
Is there so is it 3 digits?
Yes.
Is it higher than 3 digits?
No.
All right, so it's in the 3 digits.
Yes.
127.
You are so close.
Really?
Yes. So, according to the YouTube channel Dead Meat, who the gentleman in that duo, he's also the co-host of Scream Dreams with Catherine Corkin from Terrifier, the girl who gets hung upside down. They counted that there were a total of 116 kills throughout the runtime.
That actually seems low.
Yeah.
You've got the gang fights.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's a lot off screen too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, like, what you actually see there. Yeah.
Yeah. With the kills per minute being with the kills per minute being 1 kill every 56 seconds, the film is ranked second in the series with the most kills, only being beaten by the first Purge, the film from 2018, the 4th film in the franchise called The First Purge, which I find weird because it took them forever to start killing.
Right. That seems off to me, but
I trust Dead Meat though.
Yeah.
Those guys are, they know what they're doing.
And props to them because there's no way I can like go with like the counter clicker or something. Like in movies like this, I feel like it would be super hard to actually get a very accurate number, but it just seems like this one had more than the 4th.
Yep.
Purge maybe.
Yep. Okay, so Katie, what is your favorite scene of this film?
So I have to say that my favorite scene is the chapel scene.
Okay.
At the very end, and really it's a very long scene, but I think just the suspense of knowing that the tunnels are there and that the buildup of them like at the pulpit, and the fire, the gunfire and everything. I liked that whole scene. What about you?
Gotta go with my bias on this one. I gotta go with the Candy Girls invading the Joe store.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Which part?
probably the second part because it's more. They're drilling into the store, and there's.
So we're near the third time she comes.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah. So at night. So yeah, I just that scene impressed me so much. It's. I'm gonna say this on International Wednesday. Brittany just impressed me as their whole brigade just impressed me as she brought the horror to the movie. For me, I love the character killers, the Chuckies, the Ghostface, the Terrifier, everything, and I feel like in my fandom, obviously even my tattoo here, I might be a little biased, but I just love that she kind of became this, it's what they call black girl excellence. Like she's like the staple to, you don't see a lot of black girl horror killers.
Right.
And I loved, and I know her time was short in the film, but, you know, she made it memorable because we got merchandise. That we have a mask, we have a Funko Pop, like, of her. Like,
And there's several people we've talked to that don't really know all of the Purge.
yeah.
And they've been like, oh, yeah, the bride one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, she's a very memorable character.
Yeah. Which, sidebar, that drives me nuts that they call her Freak Bride. I know, you know, and I think that whoever was crediting it on IMDb, they didn't know her name or didn't hear it. So they just, you know, but it ended up on the Funko Pop. And then, you know, we'll even talk to her about it. But it's like, it's just weird to call her that. It's like, anyway. But what was your favorite death?
So, you know, obviously, it is definitely when Kimmy the Candy Girl finally gets killed.
Yeah.
I put Lainey as a badass, and I said Lainey is the one that saved them all.
Yeah.
This whole, I think this whole scene with the Kimmy and her friends, they're cutesy but deadly, right? And they've obviously already killed. They're covered and splattered and everything, and Lainey just comes in like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
You know, and I really liked the sentiment of the woman coming in. And to your point, like the unusual black woman coming in to save the senator, the Secret Service person, and all this, that are all hunkered at going, what's going to happen? And she's coming up and cleaning house.
Yeah. Well, and she's almost kind of, actually, no, she is the final girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my favorite death was also Kimmy the Candy Girl's death. I love how they were able to, you know,
It was your favorite scene and your best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I like how, you know, she's, for one, Kimmy's able to actually sit up, and then, you know, the transition of bop, you know, wherever, just shooting her, you know, blowing her head off, basically. So, I mean, I just thought that was a cool feel, the way they did all that.
And honestly, I liked the, it's weird to say, I liked the aesthetics of her kill.
Yeah.
It was kind of hyper realistic.
Yeah.
But there's only been a couple of times in horror movies when I've actually been like, yeah, kill. And she's definitely up there. The other one is the end of Saw.
Yep.
When you think that they're doing Jigsaw. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have moved on to our rating system. If you've never seen the show before, if this is your first time seeing it, you know, there are a lot of times you'll be talking with your friends, and you'll go see a movie or to watch it at home, and you'll say, hey, what'd you think of that movie? You know, what do you give it by letter grade? Or what do you give it a number 1 through 10? Or how many stars do you rank that? Well, here at the Couple That Slays Together, we like to do all three. You know, just remaining kind of within those circles, but also, you know, kind of give them their each individual ranking. So, Katie, what do you give this for a letter grade?
I gave it an A-.
Okay.
I said that what I kind of knocked it down for was some of the plot holes.
Yep.
And then the lack of the backstories.
Yep.
And I get you don't want to have, you know, an odyssey of all of these back characters, but there are just certain things like Lainey's character.
Yep.
You could have given us like 15 seconds more of just how did you get that name?
Yeah.
So I gave it an A-. What about you?
Surprisingly, I gave this movie a B.
No.
It could be because I agree with you on a lot of that. And I don't blame James for that. You know, I get that this is his baby. I just feel like there needs to be more. Like give me more. You know, I mean, I basically feel like he was stuck with a decision. He either had to character build or he had a world build, and he chose world build, which is awesome. You don't really see a lot of world building in stories, so I can't fault him for that. And plus, a B is still a good story. It's still great. Yeah. But like you, I wanted to see, you know, the why. You know, why is Lainey the way she is? Why is why is Kimmy the way she is? Why is, you know, you know, maybe even more into Ethan Hawke's family in the first one, or, you know, and I know I'm looking at this as franchise as a whole, but it's like, you know, we only get so much, and to be honest with you, I almost feel like the Purge as a whole could have succeeded better, or could succeed better as a TV series. You know, they could do this hour by hour, but also getting to know characters, this and that, maybe showing flashbacks within the hours.
Well, and it's the second movie with Leo, and we still don't have a ton of backstory of Leo. We have a little bit, not a ton. And then also the same with Bishop. It's
him too.
Technically he's been in 3 movies, and you do see this change and this buildup of him kind of forming and building up this militia. But you really don't know why they were trying to attack him in the first place, in the very first one. There's just, again, you could give, a full minute of why.
Yeah. Yep. I gave this on a scale of 1 to 10. I gave it an 8.
Okay.
Again, just, it's a great story. It's not in my ranking of horror films. It probably is in my top 10-ish, or at least top 20, this film specifically. But I still think it's fair to say that it's not perfect, and I give it an 8. What do you give it?
I gave it a 9.
Okay.
In the Purge franchise so far, this and the second Purge, Anarchy, are kind of my favorite.
Yeah.
There's a place for each of them, obviously. But I do like these kind of the best of the franchise. But I put down here also, both Leo and the Senator stayed alive because of luck.
Yeah.
A lot of, almost get them, and this person swoops in and saves the day. And yeah, I mean, it's still good. It's still entertaining. But I did kind of dock down for it because it's kind of like, you're supposed to be Secret Service, dude. Like, it just happened to be that Dixon used to be a Crip, so you do the Crip whistle. Like, a lot of circumstantial, lucky ways to go. And then I also put down, this is the second movie with Leo. I would have liked to have seen how we got from him wanting revenge for his son's death to now protecting a senator and being like the head of her security. There could have been a little bit more.
Well, and the way that the Purge is, it almost feels like it needs to be like a Game of Thrones type of thing where anyone, including the main character, can die because, we're breaking all these rules. Why not have, or like Red Dawn, right? At the Red Dawn remake, where we're sitting there literally, or The Departed, where we're sitting there watching the movie, and all of a sudden, Chris Hemsworth, spoilers, Chris Hemsworth is the main character. He's walking down the hallway and pop, dies. Leonardo DiCaprio's character in The Departed pops out of an elevator, pop, shot in the head. It's like, well, what the hell have we been watching this for? But at the same time, it's like, that's almost brilliant because this breaks the traditional rules of your your protagonist surviving to the end. You know what I mean? Which I know we see Joe die, but it wasn't, Frank Grillo's character or
Bishop.
The senator. Yeah, Bishop too. But like, I just feel like they could have done a little bit more, maybe given us more of a beloved character to then surprisingly die. But again, that's not too big of a deal. I know he's still storytelling and world building at the same time. I give this 4 stars. What do you give it stars?
4.75, just so you have to edit again.
Yeah, right.
Don't see that anyway. Just kidding. I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, I think across the board, it's decent. It's good. It's entertaining. It's thought-provoking. There's just, if you provoke too much thought, then you're going down a rabbit hole of like what we've done, of what's really the backstory, what really caused this, how is this person here at this moment doing this. But still definitely good.
Yeah. Okay, so along with that rating system, we also have another rating system. It is our replay value system. Now, what that means is there are films out there that we have seen that we thought were masterpieces, but they don't necessarily you don't necessarily have to watch them again. It's kind of a one-time watch. Honestly, for me, and we'll review it later, but The Monkey was kind of a one-watcher. As brilliant as I thought that one was, not a lot of replay value there, I don't feel. But then there's other films like, like comedies like Dumb and Dumber and Superbad, where they might not have been like the most, and they're hilarious. They're comfort movies. They might not necessarily have been, well, I guess that's a bad example. They're blockbuster smashes, but like they're not telling these riveting stories that, are getting nominated for Academy Awards. But they're ones that you want to put on when you're watching them, when you're needing a nap and you need something comfortable to listen to, or you want to put something on in the back, or when you're cleaning the house, something along those lines. So with this, my replay value ranking was Will Rush repeatedly. I've seen this movie so many times. It is one that we've put on together and just been like, you must watch this? Yeah, sure, why not? And again, not in a negative way, but we just are like, why don't we just throw this on while we're playing in the house or whatever. So what do you get this as a
same?
Yeah.
Yep, I gave it the same. I think if you're a fan of horror, it's probably replayable for you as well. It's definitely entertaining.
Yep.
For its plot points, for certain things that we'd love to see more of that we didn't get, or at least haven't gotten so far in the franchise. It's still one that you can rewatch repeatedly.
Yep. Okay, so that about does it for our review on the Purge election year 2016. Again, we have an interview with Brittany Mirabile, who played Kimmy the Candy Girl herself, the girl who wore this mask, this Funko Pop. So be sure to check that out. We're going to put that as a companion with this episode this week. Again, we are shooting this in 2025, and this interview will drop on March 21st when actual Purge night is happening in the movies. Obviously, it's not real, but so we thought it'd be fun to line it up with that date. Katie, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that I'd love to hear from you all what your grades are.
Yeah.
How you liked it or didn't like it, what you'd like to see more of or less of. Just remember to keep your comments. This is a safe space, as the terminology we like to say. This movie does touch on religion and politics and things like that, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to judge the horror. So I'd love to hear from you all. I'm
curious what y'all out there would do on Purge night if it were real. Put yourself in that state, and obviously, I don't know. Yeah, go wild. Who cares? Like, what would you do? You can find us on social media. If you're listening to us on podcasts, we are on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We have a Facebook group that you can speak to us in or exchange comments. We're on Threads, X, formerly Twitter, Bluesky, and we do have a TikTok now. Katie decided to turn her personal TikTok into our TikTok for the podcast, and that is at Couple That Slays Together. The rest of the socials are at The Couple That Slays, with the exception of X, formerly Twitter. That one is Couple That Slays, character limits and whatnot. You can also email us at thecouplethatslays@gmail.com for any comments, questions, concerns, anything you'd like to see reviewed. And we also have a Patreon that we're still trying to take off. So if you want to give back to the podcast, feel free to donate. Other than that,
and also keep in mind that with our interviews that we would love to hear from you all what your questions will be.
Yes.
So feel free on any of these platforms to reach out to us or directly on that Gmail.
Yep.
We very well could use one of your questions and totally give you a shout out for your submission. So keep that in mind for Brittany, but also for our future interviewees.
Yep. And we do have a few interviews already planned and scheduled. We do have at least one a month for the year of 2025. So we're really excited to have those. We're really excited to get to those. I know, that we're kind of just still at the beginning, but cannot wait to meet and talk with these people. But other than that, thanks again, guys, for checking us out. And my name is Brandon.
I'm Katie, and we're the couple that slays together.
Enjoy the horror.
The couple that slays together.